What's going on, Refed? This is Evan from Sharing Excess. And one exciting accomplishment that I want to share with you guys is that we were able to expand Sharing Excess to 2 new cities over the last year in Detroit and Chicago. And also, we were able to rescue over 100 million pounds of food last year, feeding over 8 million people. Peace. Much love.
Hi, everyone. Jess Rosen from Lean Path here. We're super excited to announce that we hit a huge milestone in our history and the road to 2030 this year, preventing over 200 million pounds of food from going to waste. This is thanks to the hard work of thousands of kitchen teams all around the world, tracking and preventing their food waste every day. We couldn't be more proud of this accomplishment and all of our partners. Onward to 2030.
Hi, I'm Taylor here at Miami Valley Meals in Dayton, Ohio. We use rescued and donated food to prepare meals for our community, and in 2025, we celebrated 5 years of service and marked our 1 millionth meal.
Natasha Dyer here from Wrap Americas, celebrating our first year of working with local governments and their NGO partners to tackle household wasted food. In Denver and Hamilton County, our model was to pilot evidence-based behavior change strategies directly with residents, while also partnering with a national grocery retailer to extend that messaging. In Denver, we successfully worked with Sprouts Farmers Market, but in Hamilton County had to pivot, ultimately partnering with the Ohio Farmers Market Network. It was an early lesson and adaptation for our new team, and honestly made the work stronger for it.
Hey everyone, I'm Aiden Riley. I'm a co-founder of the FarmLink Project. And so this past year, like so many of you all I know, we heard from more farmers and more communities than we have in any other prior year. People who are reaching out, asking for us, saying, we've never had a year like this. Is there any way that you can help? And we're super proud to bring on a new CEO, Eliza Blank. And together our team connected with thousands of individuals across the country in an effort to move what ended up being over 130 million pounds of food, to keep that out of the landfill and instead get it to communities where it was needed most. We're already looking forward to this coming year. We're well on our way, and we're very excited to share with you all. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Lorenzo Macaluso from CET, and I'm excited to share that this year we launched our Train the Trainer program thanks to support from Refed and Toast. As a result, organizations from California to Wisconsin to Maryland are equipped with the tools, know-how, and firsthand experience to help businesses and restaurants in their communities divert food waste. They've already diverted over 76,000 pounds, and we're excited to see that scale and even more communities take advantage of this great offering.
Hi, and welcome to Food Recovery 101 with me, Dr. Amanda Missimer, co-founder of Food Recovery for Rhode Island. Did you know since 2021, over 520,000 pounds of food waste has been diverted from our one and only landfill? Additionally, over 400,000 pounds of surplus food has been rescued to feed people. But how did it happen?
Well, I'm Vanessa Venturini, the other co-founder of Food Recovery for Rhode Island, and what we've done is train 250 people to go out and serve as composters and food rescuers and change makers in their community through our Train the Trainer program. And what's even better is we now have 30 other states who, through their cooperative extensions, would like to adopt our program model. We are pumped.
See you soon.
Peace out, Refed.
Those get better and better. They just get sweeter and sweeter. I love them. I know some people are still out there. Please start heading in, grab a seat. Hopefully you guys had some great breakout sessions, our last ones, and this is kind of our last main stage session. And we thought it was really important, in order to look forward, that we should absolutely honor and be able to rediscover looking backwards. And given this is the 10-year anniversary of the roadmap, bringing in the pioneers, what we've learned, what's changed, what we're looking forward to. And so there is no one who should be leading this panel other than our president. Please give it up for our Refed president, Dana Gunders.
All right, thanks everyone. Thanks Joel, actually. Is anyone else feeling like they haven't had enough coffee yet today? I'm just gonna own that right now, but I'm gonna put it aside because I'm so excited for this conversation. I know, some people, this is their first time. Some of you have been working on this for 20 years. And everyone, we need you all. But it is kind of fun to just, like I said yesterday, take a moment, celebrate how far we've come. And I think getting a picture of sort of what it was like to be working on this 10 years ago can help us appreciate, how far we've come. So we have 4 awesome people who I'm gonna invite up in just a sec to just share what it was like when they were working on this back in the day. But also, I just want you to know, I could have had like 25 more people up here, and it was actually really hard to narrow the list down. Could have been Christy, it could have been Kai Robertson, Thomas McQuillan. I literally have a list of 40 people on here. I'm not gonna read it all. Liz Baldridge, Steve Dietz, Eva Goulburn, Claudia Fabiano, Jason Wadworth, Pete Pearson. You guys could all be up here, and 30 other people. So just want you to know this is a snapshot, and we appreciate all of you. And out of curiosity, could you raise your hands if you were at the very first summit, which was held in 2016 at Harvard University, hosted by Harvard, Mass DEP. Actually, can you stand up? Because I can't see very well. EPA all hosted it. How many people do we have from there? All right, yeah. Christine, yeah. Any of those people could be up here right now. But we had to pick somebody. And I'm very excited to start off with really one of ReFed's co-founders, Sarah Varon. Sarah was a ReFedder before there was ReFed. She was tasked by Jesse to put this whole idea together and into place. So come on up, girl. She's taken a detour since then. She's been at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative for the last 9 years and just recently stepped away. Sure, sit wherever. But it's been awesome to have her back, so have a seat, Sarah. All right, next up, we have Andrew Shackman. Anyone who knows Andrew knows he is the absolute original. Andrew started his company in 2004. He was one of the first people I talked to. I have a great memory sitting at Harvard, actually, with Andrew and Jonathan Bloom, who wrote the first book on this in the US, and the 3 of us going like, what's really important to work? How do we really take this on and trying to strategize about the problem back then? And he has been just a brilliant advisor to me ever since. Okay, next up we have Nora. Nora Goldstein, give it up for Nora. Actually, while Andrew's kind of the original, Nora's really the original. For those who don't know, Nora's father founded BioCycle magazine in 1960. And it was a get more into that. And she is the expert on anything organics, really ever. So, and then, absolutely not least, but last up here, Miss Emily Ma, come on up. The first time I met Emily was at a Google Food Lab event about 10 years ago, and I just very happenstance sat next to her, and it turned out, after everyone introduced themselves, that Emily had my book. I wrote a book called The Waste-Free Kitchen Handbook a year earlier, and she was like, oh my gosh, I have your book. I know who you are, I have your book. And I was like, somebody from Google X has my book? I was floored. But it's been incredible work with Emily ever since, and Emily is an amazing ReFed board member and has been for many years. I'm not sure how many. So, all right, with that, we just wanted to capture kind of what it was like working on this 10 years ago. So, Sarah, maybe we'll start with you. And can you just like share a memory or a snapshot of that from 10 years ago?
Sure. And apologies, I have a bit of a hoarse voice from too much talking at the conference and some allergies. So, 10 years ago, it was really for ReFed, it was more like 12 years ago or 13 years ago when we really started on this journey. And at the time, there was already amazing work that was happening across the country around the issue of food waste. And really, though, in those early days, some of the conversations we were having was, how do we help to stitch this all together and bring it up to a national conversation in a different way? And in a way that's really solutions-oriented, that's saying, here's the solutions to the problem that we all know is out there. That's much easier said than done. We talked about how ReFed was a roadmap, and we were trying to create the roadmap, but we really didn't, it was a map that we didn't have the map itself, and we were trying to create it. So I think some of my favorite memories from actually those times is really, I think many of the people up here and in the room, you have, 3 people and 5 opinions. And we spent hours and hours debating things like, do we talk about food waste or wasted food? What should be in the definition of the baseline for the roadmap? Should a solution stand on its own or be part of another solution? And there's lots of really small little details, but all kind of coming together into something that people could then buy in and get behind as we looked at kind of collectively. Maybe the last thing I'll say is, in the early days, Jesse talked a lot about gathering logos, but it really actually felt like gathering friends. It was people who all cared deeply about this topic and wanted to figure out ways that we could work moving forward.
I love that. And I will share, as one of those deep decisions that had to be made when we came out with the roadmap, I spoke with Blake Chorn, who I don't know if she's still here, but she was one of the people who was working on the roadmap because she was modeling the different solutions, and she was trying to model what would the difference be for the date labels? If we standardize date labels, how much is people's behavior actually going to change? And so I just remember this long conversation with her because there was no information on this, and so she's like, well, how do I model this? And she was like, well, the only thing I can find is that for Levi's, when they wash these in cold water on the tag, they have a study that says 5 to 10% of people actually look at the tag and wash their jeans in cold water. So can we use 5 to 10% for this? I was like, I guess so. I can't think of anything better, and that is, in fact, what was used in the original ReFed roadmap to model standardizing date labels. All right, moving along. Andrew, tell us. It doesn't have to be 10 years ago. It could be 20. Give us an early memory.
It could be 22.
22, not to age
yeah.
your, no.
So many memories. I think the first thing that I think about when I go way back was that this wasn't a safe topic. Now it's a topic certainly everyone in this room understands and is talking about, but when we started, this was scary to chefs. This was something that went right to the question of your competence, and it was a question of, were you doing your job correctly? And I'll never forget, it was around the time of the global financial crisis. We were working with one of the biggest casino hotels in Las Vegas. And as you all know, there's always a food waste story around Thanksgiving, right? You can set your watch by it. There will be articles about food waste the day after Thanksgiving, which is good. So the AP called me, and I sent them to the executive chef of this hotel. And he gave them a very sort of open interview, and he said, I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and I'm reducing portions, and I'm doing this. And the PR team, comms team for this hotel, which shall go nameless, lost their minds. It was like, we have someone saying we're reducing portion sizes in Las Vegas. This is going to the heart of our value proposition. And so there were those landmines that you would walk into and you didn't know where they were going to be. You think, this is great. How could anyone not want to take credit for reducing food waste? But, there are those those things. And today, I mean, we're still talking about portions, right? It's finally maybe become ripe at the moment. The other thing that I remember was just, I had to sort of build in my mind, I had this diagram of a layer cake that was, in order to have a conversation around this, first you had to establish that food waste was a problem. And that wasn't a given. Like, people weren't really conceding that point in many cases. Secondly, you had to get people to understand that prevention, because this is what I do, prevention was actually the top of the hierarchy and the place to start, because that wasn't obvious. And if you got that far, you had to establish that measurement was the mechanism to drive prevention. And if you'd climbed to those 3 layers, then you could have a conversation around automation of measurement and why you needed that, and thus why you might want to buy our products. And so what we found was we spent 98% of our time on the first layer of the cake, because people didn't know and didn't believe it, and or just didn't understand it. And so it's been amazing to watch that change.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. And by the way, on portion sizes, I think we do still have that challenge, but I cannot help myself to let you all know that we just put out a portion brief because we've done some like surveys and stuff on portion sizes. So go check it out at our site sometime if you're interested. Thanks for that, PR. All right, Nora.
Okay, so for me, paying attention to food waste, surplus food, wasted food, food residuals, food scraps, it's all the same thing in some ways. But really, in my memory, it's been about aha moments. There was one of the earliest was in 1991, when the Food Marketing Institute, which is now the Consumer Brands, put out a white paper on if you composted the food waste in the grocery stores, you could actually reduce the hauling, your trash hauling, keeping it out of the compactor. And so you'd recycle, you'd pull out your organics, and your compactor could either be downsized, but it was like, whoa. If you're in organic waste management, that's huge. And then another aha moment, and I'll just use an example, the city of San Diego started a program for commercial food waste generators and offered a reduced hauling fee for $25 versus $40. You could, if you source separated your food. And one of the first things that happened to those participants is they realized how much food, edible food, was they were putting out there. And that really was an aha moment. And that played out when Vermont's first year of its food waste disposal ban, the Vermont Food Bank saw donations go way up. So those are aha moments. There's Dana's aha moment in 2012, how much we waste. But it wasn't until the roadmap came out that we actually had numbers to put on this. And really the importance, and I was a little shocked, like composting is like, value is like, wait, you can't even barely see the line. But on the front end is all the value of the food, keeping it as food. And Sarah walked me through understanding that better so that we could then report on it. So it's really been aha moments.
Can I just say something quickly? It's funny that you brought up date labeling and you brought up composting, because I very vividly remember you saying, but our line it has to be wider. There's more potential from date labeling. I was like, but look how cost effective it is. And you saying, but composting and all of the infrastructure, it has to be more cost effective. And I said, but look how wide the line is. They're both necessary. But both of you, I so vividly remember actually each person has kind of the passion behind their solutions. And so actually having the data to be able to walk through and talk about that was so important, I think, actually for bringing everyone to the table also.
And I should note, we did save a lot of money and had a very tall line. And I was very excited.
And still do, everyone. Awesome. Emily, tell us your early days on this, how you found it and what it was like working on it back then.
Well, firstly, I'm going to give a shout out to Dana's book again. I think you can probably find it on used books sales and things like that. It's a really good book. It's called Waste Free Kitchen, and it's very, very pertinent still today. I hope you'll find a way to get it back in print. I'm not her salesperson. I'm just a big fan. Always been for many years. So I think all of you expect me to talk about data and tech because I am a Googler, but I'm not going to talk about either of those things. The aha moment for me was actually digging through our trash. Who in this room has done a waste characterization study before? Meaning, good. So a lot of people like to call it, colloquially dumpster diving. But waste characterization studies are actually really, really well planned, right? So, the way, for those of you who haven't done it, it's actually fascinating. We worked with a company called Cascadia many years ago. We still do work with them, and every year we'll actually choose a number of our offices, and then every night we take every bag of trash coming out of the kitchen, the bathrooms, it's really gross, I know, and we put them out in the parking lot, and then we hand sort, right? Cascadia is the expert in this. And over the years, many Googlers have participated in these. So I was participating in these in 2017. You have to hand sort if it's food or not food. It'd be shocking what's not food. And then you sort what's meat and what's not meat by hand, right? And I did this a couple of times, full days out in the sun, right? It's super gross, super smelly. I then made my entire engineering team do this, right? And they're like, I signed up to be a software engineer, not a trash person. But it's really telling when you actually have to put your hands in the trash can. Like, we found stuff like rubber gloves in the compost. Why? Because people don't want to have to go to a separate trash can to take off their gloves. So going from the intellectual to what's actually happening in our kitchens operationally gave us a lot of respect and understanding of what was truly happening, what the barriers were. I also found, smallwares and plates and food in the bathroom garbage, and you're like, who the heck hides in the bathroom to eat their lunch? But it happens, right? You start to ask really interesting questions because the trash reveals so much. So again, the aha moment for me at the end of the day was, I remember actually Google X caught footage of this at one point. They were like, oh my God, there's this lady in the back who constantly tries to collect all our trash. What's going on? There's a video clip of me pulling a perfectly good apple out of the compost. And I was like, who throws a perfectly good apple in the compost? And I almost put it in my mouth. And people were like, don't do that, you might kill yourself, right? Because of the pathogens. But anyways, a lot of memories, but those are the most visceral.
I love that. Not everyone at Google X was digging through the trash.
It's true.
And, okay, so those are some snapshots. I think it all felt very new and just kind of a lot of talking about the problem. I think for me is what I remember. There was a lot of talking about the problem, and I know when the ReFed report came out, that was one of the first times we could sort of switch to really pointing to solutions and how to prioritize them. But I know for myself, I've seen a huge shift. Nobody wants to really hear about the problem anymore. And I don't mean this audience, I mean most audiences and that I'm invited to speak to, they kind of already know. And that's been a big shift, kind of to your first step of the ladder or whatever that was. So I'm curious for you all, what has felt either a really big accomplishment over the past 10 or 10-ish years, or just a change that's really notable? Nora, let's start with you.
Sure. So I thought a lot about this question because there's a lot, but I boiled it down to two. I know it maybe just supposed to do one, but the first one is growing the knowing. In other words, the data. We have, over this past 10 years, grown what we now know, and in large part to what ReFed does. BioCycle, tracks more on the recycling side. And it's so important, and that has been a theme over the last couple of days. Can't know what you don't measure, et cetera. But the other thing that has happened is the prevention, recovery for donation, processing, composting, was all kind of in their own little silos. And something that's happened is we are seeing the organics recycling offices in city, municipalities, and county government, solid waste authorities include a food waste prevention initiative. They're also doing recovery, and they're doing the recycling part, and that has shown up in state bans, food waste there's a new term for it. We call them food waste disposal bans. But, you know, where they're combining edible food recovery with the diversion from landfill. And that's huge. That's new. You know, I'd say that evolved in the last 10 years.
Interesting. Yeah, the hierarchy kind of in action a little bit
like
more.
How it gets implemented.
Yeah. See, Lana, Claudia, your work on the EPA hierarchy coming to life. Andrew, what have you noticed?
So I think a couple of key things. One, there is an innovation economy around this work now. And when I look around and I see Orbisk and Topanga and MetaFoodX and Winnow, and like, there's a bunch of us working on this problem. And that wasn't the case for the most part a decade ago. And that's just in that particular sector, but that's replicated across a range of these solution types. And so huge progress, because we can't solve things if we don't have the tools to be able to do that. And so I think that's been exciting. Secondly, one of the major points of focus in my work with food service has been how do you drive scaled action at the largest players? And if you look at the largest players, Sodexo, Aramark, Compass, Guggenheimer, all of whom are here, have all identified wasted food as a priority, as something that they're working on. And that wasn't the case at one point in time. And, you know, particular shout out to Sodexo for having built a massively scaled, full scope food waste prevention program. And for me, that was one of the big milestones, was sitting on a stage with the CEO of Sodexo at Vivatech in Paris, announcing they were gonna roll out a solution on food waste prevention to 3,000 sites around the world. And you know, I've been here talking about, you know, let's stop doing pilots and let's get, you know, I've mentioned at ReFed in the past these stories, but like to get to that kind of scale. And I think what you see is that that kind of scaling has continued in food service, which has been really exciting.
Can I build on Andrew? Because I wanted to give Andrew a lot of thanks. So the scale only happens because we can help each other along. And Sodexo, Compass Group, Aramark, all of these organizations are the food service organizations, but Google was able to come up with its own global food waste goals for 223 cities back in March 2022. I remember talking about this in the Minnesota Summit many years ago. That was 5 years ago. And it was because of people like Andrew working with LeanPath at Google, you know, in our cafes. By the point we had actually established those food waste goals, we had the confidence because we had worked with LeanPath for 8 years, saving 10 million pounds of food. That's equivalent of taking 25,000 cars off the road for a year in terms of emissions, right? We had the confidence working with you. And then we also had, shout out to a lot of other folks here, Compass Group. You know, if Compass Group hadn't come up with the first goal in 2017 to save 25% by 2020, I believe. It was a long time. It was Gary Green was the CEO, and I remember him telling me that. I was like, oh my God, if you can do it, we should be able to do it. And another shout out, Denise Osterhuse and Carrie Embruster from Kroger. They decided as a foundation they would focus on zero hunger, zero waste. And they had set some crazy goals. And at one point, I remember when Kathy Cacciola, myself, others from Google were like, how did you get past your comms people and your like, you know, lawyers and your like, how did you manage to get them to say yes to putting a public goal out there? Because it's super vulnerable. Like, why would we ever do that, right? You know, we're just totally gonna get judged. Our CEO is gonna be like, hell no, am I gonna commit to that? I remember Denise and Carrie taking me out to dinner in Cincinnati and saying, you know what? We actually didn't achieve our goal. We missed it by like 2%. But it wasn't like the press dinged us for missing it by 2%. We delivered, I don't know, 950 million meals instead of 1 billion. That's still something to celebrate. It's huge. I took that story back to our C-suite, and they were like, all right, let's do it, right? So we gave each other courage. This network here that you have here didn't exist 10 years ago. And I'm so excited about the momentum that's gonna continue to grow as a result of all of us being able to give each other courage.
Amen, love that, thank you. Sarah, you were here, you stepped out, now you've come back to visit. Like, what do you notice?
This has been phenomenal, actually, to be able to have been there 10 years ago, had done a bit of a pivot, career shift or whatever you might have it, and so haven't been as close to the work over the last decade. And so to be in this room and feel the energy and see the number of people, I think, many of the comments have already been about the scale, but when we first launched the ReFed roadmap, I think we had 90 people in the room in Stanford, maybe 90. We might have been squinting even to get to that number, and we were thrilled that there were 90 people that wanted to be in the room talking about this together. And so to see the number of people that are in this room today is just like it does blow my mind. I'm gonna be honest about that. And I think about, talking about innovation, like the number of companies. I was working closely with Jesse Fink at the time, looking at companies to possibly be investing in as well in the food waste space. There's I could probably count them on my two hands, the number of companies at that point in time. And today, it is a world of difference in terms of the number of companies that are out there, the different approaches, the creativity, everything. We talked about in the original roadmap kind of 4 key levers. We talked about policy and finance and innovation and education. And just across the board, if you look at each of those, the amount of work and effort that has happened over the last decade is just awe-inspiring. I was enjoying, actually this morning, I was looking at the Insights Engine and the Capital Tracker and things like that, and saw that $9 billion has been spent on investing into food waste solutions over the last decade. When we originally published the roadmap, we had said we think it's going to cost $18 billion. So we're halfway there today, and what that has enabled, the growth of everything, is just incredible, and I can't wait to see how that next $9 billion gets spent.
9 billion, anyone? Anyone? Yeah, it's been exciting. Yeah, and I mean, I was only at that 90-person event because Sam Cass was speaking, and I was a big fangirl, but no, that actually, even that event felt like, oh my gosh, look at who is speaking about food waste. Like, wow, Sam Cass. This guy just came from the White House, and he's up here, and he's talking about food waste. It was like, I remember, super notable, and some of the other people who were there as well. So, all right, well, that's been a fun trip down memory lane. Let's look ahead a little bit here. With all that you've seen, all the experience, like, where should we be focusing as we look forward now? Let's, Emily, start.
Oh, goodness. I'll keep this actually quite straightforward. I think as we focus on food waste, right, the question we've always asked ourselves, working on food waste is, what is the highest and best use of this precious food that we've put in water, energy, labor, all these resources into growing? I would abstract that question and say, where's the highest and best use of each of us, right? Because as human beings, we each have potential, and we each have precious time and energy on Earth, right? And I know that sounds like a very philosophical thing to ask, but I think as I have grown up with all of you, my role has changed, and I'm incredibly thrilled to participate in the way I'm participating. It waxes and wanes, right? But each of us has something, right, to give, and that role changes over time. Similarly, it's funny, I think of not just food, but data about our food as an asset, right? How do we ensure that the data doesn't go to waste, right? And I had collected with our engineering team literally like 20 million images that we had built hardware to sort of capture in our own kitchens alongside, Andrew's work, building on Andrew's work. And it was literally sitting unused for a while, and we were waiting for, at least in my company, the large language models and the image models to catch up. And so, you never know what's sitting in the attic and what's going to waste. You might want to go dig through your attic and check out what's there, because it might now be relevant and useful because the technology has caught up that we can put it to use. So I put it out there. What is the highest and best use of yourself, your time, and the assets, the incredible assets that you have?
Sarah, what do you?
I think it's been said a lot this week, actually, here, that the foundation has really been laid over this last decade. The fact that all of us are here in this room talking about this On the little snapshots, the videos that folks have shared, the amount of pounds that have been saved or served in a different way, things like that, it's all there, and it's just about now scaling as we look forward. So I think that's really what it is.
Love that. I don't know, maybe our highest and best use of ourselves is making those awesome videos really fun, because I love what people put into those. Andrew, what do you think?
So I often think of things in terms of story structure. So if you think about a 3-act story, I think we're in Act 2, which is to say we're no longer at the beginning and we're not yet at the end. And we may never get to the end, but just what's notable about that is beginnings are always fascinating because it's the origin of something and it's very engaging. And the end is exciting because lots of things are finishing up. The middle's hard. The middle is the part where you can get lost, and I remember the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Two Towers is not the most loved book. And so there's a reality that we're in the middle, and so I think we have to be aware of that, and we have to be willing to push through. We have to bring our perseverance. And I think we also have to be looking towards Act 3, because in Act 2 is when you set it up. And so one of the things that is notable to me is we've all had targets. So those who were aggressive had 2020 or 2025 targets. Others had 2030 targets. But, it doesn't all just end in 2030. Like, we need to be thinking about what's beyond that. And targets are helpful. And Emily, great point, right? I mean, creating external targets brings internal alignment, and it brings momentum, and it brings accountability. And so I hope we will not allow ourselves to focus on the countdown to 2030 and potentially the narrative that says, we didn't get 100% of where we needed to get. I think what we want to do is look beyond 2030. We want to look with optimism about what we've actually been able to do, which is tremendous. And it's about Act 3. It's how do we get to the place that we want to get to with that perseverance and that optimism. I think also that just one of the things that occasionally, when I'm talking with my colleagues, we will be frustrated that something hasn't happened. Someone hasn't called us back. We've been calling the chef every day for 12 weeks, and they, whatever, they don't call us back. And there's a point where you go, well, what's this resistance about? And I think you have to stop and recognize that in many ways, the resistance is the work. Like, overcoming the resistance is the way forward. And so finding those moments where things stick, well, that's where it's entrenched. That's where we have, things that are really, really hard to dislodge. And hospitality culture is one of them. Like, it is really, really hard. We are so used to managing risk in some ways by throwing away food and not running out. And these are deep cultural norms. And so I think we have to lean into the resistance. And overall, I think we need to look at how we can revoke the social license for food waste. There is too much acceptance of it broadly, and it's hard to change across our whole society. But I think that, in my mind, is where we need to be going.
And now you can see why Andrew has just been my advisor for the last 15 years. Act 3, I'm going to steal that. Nora.
Yeah, so again, great question when you think of all the pieces. And before I give a thought about the question, I want to acknowledge kind of how this personal journey, so many of you are the new faces, the young energy, the innovation, the acceptance of technologies that old folk like me are like, what? So be proud and keep doing what you're doing. Use us. You can, reach out, because there is historical knowledge. So I just want to really emphasize that. And really, as I thought about this, when we look at the, that table in the roadmap, where really the focus was on the value of food as food, I think where I want to see us go is tying that back to the health of the soil. Yes. And we really have to pay attention to that. And BioCycle, my dad started Compost Science in 1960. He was editor of Organic Gardening and Farming magazine, and he had a vision of all the, the non-ag residuals in the waste stream and how to get those back to soil. And I think paying attention to how we're collecting things, processing things, because at the end of the day, in order to keep having food to make food waste, you need healthy soil. So I just want to interject that concept into this conversation.
I love that. So many great thoughts in there. I will say for me, I mean, I think the idea of kind of like we're growing up, we're in Act 2, right? Like we have a foundation, and in my mind, it's like we're a teenager, you know? But like many teenagers do, I think we need we need to be cautious not to be the teenager who thinks they know it all, right? That like there's a lot we know, there's a lot we can do right now, and I think I think we still need the curiosity around what we don't kind of have totally figured out yet, and I think we need that, just kind of like I said in the opening, like that grand vision, right? Like, and I know that's maybe too pie in the sky, but there is power in aligning. There's power, like you were saying, you know, and you get that goal and then you internally align on what are the steps we need to do to get there. I think there's so much we could benefit from as an ecosystem on really kind of aligning around some of those key steps, some of those goals, and kind of rallying around them. So that'll be my closing call to action. Thank you guys so much. Find them, ask them other stories and questions. And with that, we will pass it over to Sarah and Joel to close it out. Thank you so much, everyone.
Great job.
Thank you.
That was really moving. And one of the things I always love about these, Sarah, is, you know, in order to get this work done, we can talk about the past. We love talking about the past, but then it's about what are we doing about it. This is a room full of doers. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what we want to end on, is what can we do? We can celebrate where we've been, but what can we do? And personally, some of the big themes that I've taken away from is affordability is paramount right now. And that is for me, this is what I took away personally, is just a wind for us behind our wings to help us fly with the food waste movement. People need to afford their groceries. Mm-hmm. A big part of affording your groceries is stop throwing them away. And so for me personally, that was a big wake-up moment in the past kind of 24 hours of affordability might be a really big way to kind of move forward really quickly, really acutely. So that was really powerful for me. What about you?
Joel, I love that. We talk about that all the time. Regardless of what's motivating action, we have a lot of tailwinds like affordability that are moving us in the right direction and propelling the movement. I think for me, and I'm not saying this just because I'm on stage with the chef, but I've heard consistently through the sessions of how do we motivate and energize people. And it's not just consumers, it's also business leaders. And I think there's this unlock of chefs. And I'm really interested in figuring out how do we continue to galvanize the culinary community who are influencing all of us, whether it's my teenagers who I'm challenged by every single day through TikTok, or whether it's folks who are watching on TV or using their apps. So I think that's an untapped potential for us for the movement to get, again, more energy, another tailwind we can have behind us.
I love it. So we kind of want to pose it to you guys. This is our brigade. This is our army right here. And you guys have ideas. You guys have takeaways. We'd love to just spend 2 minutes. We will be quiet. Hard for me to do, but I'll be quiet. 2 minutes.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
2 minutes for you to kind of write down, what are you going to do? What were your takeaways? What are you going to do about it? 2 minutes right now, and then we'd love to float some mics around. We have some microphones all over here, and if you're willing and open to share, I think it would be amazing for us all to hear what action are we going to take.
And I'm going to put a finer point. Okay. We're at our 10-year anniversary. We've said it a million times.
Yep.
What are you going to do in the next 10 days that's going to change what happens in the next 10 years? So think big. We're right in the middle. We're in the second act. What is your action?
We'll give it a couple minutes here. We need Jeopardy sounds. seconds here, and then we're gonna, feel free to raise your hand if you've got a good one that you'd like to share. Stand up so we can see you. A little blinding up here.
Yes.
But who would like to share?
Who would like to share? We always like to hear this. It inspires everyone.
Yeah, one
All
right
right,
up front
right here in the middle.
Thank you for sharing, too.
Hi, I'm Joe Richardson. I mentioned this to Dana Gunders, to you, Renee, to Pete Pearson, to some people at Food Recovery Network. The people that are not in this audience are the people who are going to drive this most powerfully, and that's youth. So my suggestion is that, if possible, before the next ReFed conference, we have a youth conference, hybrid, virtual. Can't afford to have kids come all over the United States to come to one location. But the people who are really going to drive this aren't in this room today. And I've had incredible experience working with young people who have so much more energy than I do and have so many more ideas and have this incredible way of communicating with each other. So I'm not a tech person. A virtual conference, I have absolutely no input. People in this room could be inspiring, but youth talking to youth are going to blow their minds, and that's how we make this happen.
I love it. I love it. ReFed rookies. Okay, there you go. It's for free. All right. I love that idea. What else?
Hello. My name is Bio Joe. I'm back here. Hey. First time attender to the conference. Wow.
Welcome.
I've met a number of other first-time attenders, and everybody is just bubbly, very exciting. So in the next 10 days, I'm going to really, in the next 10 minutes, continue to try to use the little messaging app to try to get in touch with everybody, which then doesn't have a phone number, and there's something else there too. But try to get connected with as many people that are at this show doing so many amazing things in their own spaces. For someone that comes from or lives in South Carolina, we're not very progressive, and recycling is an interesting thing. And 18 years in the recycling industry, fats, oils, and greases, and now food waste into packaging, it's an interesting place to try to be. Talking with Christine from North Carolina about the fact that y'all have like 50 compost places here. We've got maybe 10, and I'm not even certain if it's even 10 in South Carolina. So there's an uphill battle to do, but in the next 10 minutes or 10 days, I'm really hoping to be able to have some meaningful connections to follow up with people from this, because so many trade shows, you get all excited, and then you get busy back at work. And so hopefully we'll be able to maintain connections and look forward to seeing everyone at next year's event.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Love it. That's the power of the community, and it's your first year and you already got it. You're in. Thank you. All right, anyone else? Oh, over here.
Hi, one thing that I am struck by at this conference, and this is my second ReFed, and it stays true for last year's as well, is the representation of regional and like local efforts. And so I think, we're only as effective in our neighborhoods and our communities and our states as we are talking to each other. And so I really appreciated like the regional breakouts yesterday. And so one of the things I want to do going forward is really make a point to connect with the people in my community, talk to people in my state. Michigan folks, sound off. Anyone still here? Woo, okay, great, talk to me. But I think a big takeaway is buying into the community around us, because a lot of this work is ground up, right? So taking stock of who's in our neighborhood is something I want to move forward with. So let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Do we have one more? One more brave audience member. Oh, right over here.
Hi, so I'm going to put my colleagues on the spot. So Pellin and Lauren, please stand up. Yep, you. So we are academics, and we study at the intersection of scholarship and practice. And I know on the ride home, we're going to have so much to talk about. You all have been so kind to us. You have embraced us. And I think we are juiced and jazzed to continue our commitment to work at that intersection, to make sure that our students are engaged in this work. We both on our campuses, Wake Forest and North Carolina A&T have campuses have college food pantries on our campus. We're going to tell them about you all. We're going to tell them about ReFed. So we hope to be back, and we're just going to continue, again, to work at this intersection of scholarship and practice.
Woo. Wow. I got little chills there. That was amazing.
I was like, that is the perfect way to close us out.
Yes.
Joel, I have to say, before we go and make a last announcement, I do want to thank our sponsors.
Yes.
And I say that, I know you're like, oh, we're at a conference, we have to thank our sponsors. I say that with absolute sincere gratitude, because our sponsors are not just sponsors, they are actually part of our active community. These are food businesses, solution providers, funders who are doing work every day, and we're just so grateful. So I have to say that before we end. I could not end without that. But
let's give it up one more time for our sponsors. Cheers.
Cheers. Joel, every year, for those who have been here before knows, we always announce where the next summit is going to be.
Hold on to your seats.
Yes.
Where are you going next year? Where are we all meeting up again?
Now, I mean, Charlotte was great. I mean, they really welcomed it. It was an amazing community. I can't, the number
that
of folks
panel
from
this morning was powerful. Like,
I know.
Everything about Charlotte was genius. I love it.
But I'm going to give you some hints. I want you to guess.
Okay.
All right.
I have no idea, so yes.
You know, you're a chef, so I'm going to go.
I'm
going to go with the culinary angle. Okay.
Okay, you're going down. Yeah.
Poppy seed bun.
New York.
No. Sliced tomatoes.
Sliced tomatoes, Jersey? We're going to.
Nope.
Okay. I was ready. Jersey has good tomatoes.
Yellow mustard.
Yellow mustard. For some reason, I'm going Texas for barbecue. Is that weird? Guys, mustard goes on barbecue.
Sunshine.
Don't judge me, okay?
I know. Yeah,
Are we going Texas?
No, we're not going Texas.
Okay,
All
so
right.
wait, poppy seed bun, tomato, yellow okay. A burger?
Now I feel like I'm going to give it away. Atomic relish.
We're headed to Chicago, people.
Yes. Yes, yes.
You got me with that one.
Yeah.
So Chicago 2027?
Chicago 2027.
Yes.
And it is May 25th through the 27th. Mark your calendars now. We are so excited for the Windy City to welcome us.
I love Chicago. And I just want to thank the entire ReFed team. You guys are just a breath of fresh air. You guys are our beacon. You help us do the work. And we love you guys. So thank you, everyone of ReFed who made us all feel at home, and thank you to you guys wherever you are coming from. I met people from Hawaii, from out of the country, from the other side of our country. Thank you. We know it's time away from family, from the hard work that you're doing. We love you guys. Let's do it. The wind's at our backs. Let's end this. We got it. Food waste, ours.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.